Every story must have character development, and character development must have a story. Now, whether that story is good or not is up for debate, but in general terms, character development must have a story for it to take place in. Mushoku Tensei is no exception. There was this pretty controversial tweet going around a few weeks ago talking about the first light novel from Mushoku Tensei and how people who read it are freaks. The portion of the book they are talking about is page 12 of the prologue to volume 1 of the light novel from Mushoku Tensei. The literal first full page of text pre-Isekai Rudeus talks about how, quote,
"What the hell had I even done wrong? All I did was skip out on our parents' funeral so I could spank it to uncensored lolly porn."
Now, if you ask me, that's pretty weird and gross, and is a great start to introduce a character that you probably wouldn't like. See what I'm getting at here? Characters don't have to be good from the start. They can change and become better people. And in this video, I'm going to explain why I think Mushoku Tensei has some of the best character writing / development out there. Now, you don't have to like Mushoku Tensei. Hell, I'm not even that big of a fan of it either. But I'm not gonna shit on it for no reason. I do admit there are some things that I like about this series, such as the writing and the character development, which I'm gonna get into. As well as there's some things that I don't like how Rudeus doesn't know what consent means throughout most the entirety of Season 1 Part 1. But that will come into play later. You don't have to force your opinion to be like mine, as well as you don't have to be mad at my opinion from being different than yours. That's just how it works. So please don't shit on me in the comments if I mention something about the series that I like / dislike that you dislike / like. Going back to the tweet I mentioned earlier, let's decipher what's going on, which isn't really that hard. The OP, who would not be named, is saying that Mushoku Tensei fans are disgusting because they defend Rudeus' actions. One thing that stood out to me is that I've never seen anyone defend pre-Isekai Rudeus. Now, if you watch the first entire season of Mushoku Tensei, you'll understand that Rudeus didn't have a good growing up. He lost friends, he went to a shitty high school, leading him to become bullied and becoming a shut-in, etc, etc. But in the anime, we don't find out all of this until later. Which means, starting out, you'll be disgusted by Rudeus. With how he acts in the beginning, you know that there's going to be change. I mean, how do you continue a series with such an unlikable character like that? I mean, some have done it, but I digress. You are meant to hate Rudeus. You're meant to not feel sorry for him. When he gets reincarnated, you can see he just uses this to be creepy again, as well as just seeing his surroundings as an MMORPG. It isn't until he meets Eris and gets kidnapped when he fully realizes that this is something else. This is the moment where Rudeus realizes that this world isn't going to be friendly with him. Seeing someone actually die is scary to him because before this, he's never watched someone die or be murdered for that fact. Something changes in him. Yes, he is still creepy and all of that, but you can see something is different. And this gets more prevalent after the mass teleportation incident. After being teleported, we see another change in Rudeus. He becomes more mature, even though already being mature for his age, somewhat. This is when he truly realizes he can't just play around and go with the flow, and that's especially clear when he meets Ryujin. When Rudeus finally meets Paul again, after finding his way back to the country of Milis, I know we're skipping over a lot, but don't worry. Rudeus would talk about his adventures, meeting Ryujin, their journey throughout the demon continent, Rudeus getting held prisoner. He tells it all to Paul, as so much happened since the last time they've seen each other. This isn't even mentioning the stuff that Rudeus went through before the mass teleportation. Paul has had enough though, especially after hearing Rudeus calling his trip fun. Paul yells at Rudeus about how he's been trying to have fun this entire time while Paul's been slaving away to find Zenith and Lilia. Rudeus realizes that he hasn't been thinking about his mom at all, and Rudeus tries to say that he has problems too, but Paul isn't having none of it, and asks Rudeus if he even tried to ask about the mass teleportation incident, which Rudeus says no. Rudeus, in rage, calls out Paul, saying how would he know what he would be doing? How would Paul know anything about after sending him off? Rudeus mentions that he must be happy spending time with all these women without Zenith and Lilia knowing. Paul punches Rudeus before getting dropped by Rudeus, saying that he had problems too and that he suffered as much as everyone else. Norn, Rudeus' sister, comes in and stops him. Rudeus tries to get Norn to recognize him, but she tells him off. Paul tells Rudeus that he's been trying to find Zenith and Lilia and everyone who was lost during the mass teleportation incident. Paul has been running a team while raising a daughter at the same time, worrying that Zenith, Lilia, or Isa, hell, even Rudeus, wondering if they were even okay. But then Rudeus just shows up and starts boasting about his journey and how much fun he was having with Eris and Ryujin. In the end though, basically just in summary, both Paul and Rudeus are at fault here. And episode 17 shows what Paul is feeling. It shows the progress he has made, all the way from when he got teleported to having to raise Norn primarily by himself. He sees visions of Rudeus when he was still living with them, and visions of what he thinks could have happened to Rudeus if Rudeus couldn't handle himself. Rudeus and Paul finally meet back up for a father-on-son conversation where they talk about how they were both wrong about what they were arguing about, and how they both had it hard. Rudeus relates this back to a time where he disregarded his last friend, the same way he did with Paul yesterday, but instead of never returning, Paul came back to reason with Rudeus. Paul and Rudeus embrace, Paul saying he's glad that Rudeus is okay and that he's glad that he isn't dead. He cries, apologizing Rudeus. I know I went on rambling about that and basically just explained that entire scene, but I feel like this moment is when it fully clicks that these people are real people, not just some NPCs in games. Rudeus and Paul meeting was beneficial to Rudeus, just advancing at becoming a better person. He understands that there's more to just running around and having fun, and that there's people out there who are actively living their lives, and he isn't the only one in the world. And finally, this is when we come to his final realization of Season 1. The realization of, what if he wastes his life and dies early? Okay, so I just want to mention I have got a little sick in between recording these, so I might sound a little weird. So yeah. After helping Lilia and Aisha escape that really weird guy, Rudeus, Arius, and Ryujerd are making their way for this mountain pass when things would end up taking a turn for the worse. While walking through the mountain pass, Dead End comes across this man and this girl walking. Arius and Ryujerd freeze, scared out of their minds while Rudeus looks confused. Oristed mentions Arius and Ryujerd by name, but mentions that he doesn't recognize Rudeus at all. Rudeus says who he is, which Oristed mentions that Paul should only have 2 daughters and no son. Oristed lets Rudeus and his group go, but not before asking one simple question. Oristed attacks, causing Ryujerd to block the attack to save Rudeus. Oristed deflects Ryujerd's attack before knocking him out, with Eris moving in to attack with no avail as she too gets beaten by Oristed. Oristed turns to Rudeus and crushes Rudeus' insides, I think, causing him to vomit up blood. As Oristed turns away, Rudeus tries to attack one more time, but it's no use as Oristed grabs Rudeus and punches a hole straight through him. Rudeus dies there, bleeding out in the snow as Eris screams for anyone to help. That is what I would say if Rudeus actually died. Nanahoshi mentioned to Oristed that maybe Rudeus is someone from her world as well, leading her to convince him to revive him. I feel like this is one of Rudeus' final big realizations of Season 1, as he finally sees that he just can't rely on Mangod or anyone when going through this. Rudeus also learns that how his death would affect people around him. Eris breaks when she thought Rudeus was going to die, and she cries when she finds out that he's still alive, happy that he's still here, and that they can finally reach where they're trying to go, finally reaching the end of their 3 to 4 year journey. I'm going to leave this video off here, but I'll eventually get to making a part 2 discussing the end of Season 1 and the entirety of Season 2, since Season 2 is currently still airing at the time of recording. I feel like bundling in the end of Season 1 into Season 2 would help better segue into that and stuff, so yeah. I also want to touch upon Rudeus' first death as well to the end of Season 1, since I didn't really cover it that well in this video, so I'll do that too. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and stuff. I want to apologize for that Tanya video re-upload. It's wrong, and I understand that. It was stupid of me to upload that and stuff, so yeah. So I hope you guys stay prepared for part 2, and I'll see you then. Thank you.